Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Thank you for joining me once again for one of these Magic the Gathering box openings. And to continue off from where we had been last time, we have a little bit of Lorwyn Eclipsed still. Yep. A second box, just as we normally do. I was absolutely thrilled with how the set came out, and I'm glad that I got a second one. And who knows, with how much I've been enjoying this, I might very well get another one there. But something that I did see that kind of got me excited was I have, from my normal source, maybe getting an extra box of Bloomborough, which is something that I have not been able to open for a while and something that I've been waiting to be able to do. So I am hoping that that will be able to come on through for me. But for now, we're going to be going on this Lorwyn train. And maybe I like Bloomborough so much because it has a little bit of the Lorwyn element to it there, but like that magic feel to it. But it also is part of that whole red wall aesthetic that I absolutely adore. But we are going to get right on into this here, hopefully getting some good things from our Lorwyn packs here as we did this past time. And, you know, just hoping that it's going to be something cool. We had rubbed for a little bit of luck there. We're going to be started off with a little bit of Blighted Blackthorn, 4 and a black, 3/7, creature, tree folk, warlock. Whenever it enters or attacks, you can blight 2. And if you do, you draw a card and lose 1 life. Okay, so, you know, getting a little bit of that Phyrexian Arena effect. Kulrath Zealot, 5 and a red for a 6/5 elemental warrior with when this ETBs, you exile the top card of your library till the end of your next turn. You can play it. You know, that's not too bad there. You know, getting a little bit of that impulse draw on a creature there. Doesn't really have any other effects there, and it's a little bit of expensive, so it's hard to play. But you can also ban basic land cycling for 1 and a red. Not mountains per se, but, you know, any basic land, so that makes it a little bit better. Wanderbrine Preacher. I believe that we'd seen this one before. 1 and a white, 2/2 Merfolk Cleric. When it becomes tapped, you gain 2 life. Barbed Bloodletter. We had seen this one before as well. When it ETBs, you attach it to a creature you control. It has flash. They gain wither until the end of turn. That when it ETBs, gives them +1/+2. Timid Shield Bearer, 1 and a white, 2/2 Kithkin Soldier. For 4 and a white, all creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. You know, going in with that whole wide board effect that they're looking for. Shimmer's Wild's Growth, 1 and a green. Enchantment Aura, enchant a land. As this ETBs, you choose a color. The enchanted land is the chosen color. Whenever the enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional 1 mana of the chosen color. Okay, so it helps with a little bit of the mana fixing for you as well. That's always nice to see. Bristlebane Outrider, 3 and a green for a 3/5 Kithkin Knight. This creature can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less, so no chump blocking. As long as another creature ETB'd under your control this turn, this creature gets +2/+0. So, you know, depending on how it goes, it's a 4 mana 5/5 that can't be blocked by small creatures there. So, you know, maybe that can be in your interest there. Thoughtweft Lieutenant, 3 and a white for a 2/2 Kithkin Soldier. Whenever this creature or another Kithkin you control ETBs, target creature you control gets +1/+1 and trample until end of turn. So nice way of maybe making one of your big creatures just a little bit more threatening there. Boldweir Aggressor, 3 and double red for a 2/5 giant warrior with double strike, and other giants you control have double strike. Honestly, not too bad for a little bit of a giant synergy deck. I mean, we had a lot of that in that Kalemni red-white deck, you know, many years ago there. That might have been around 10 years ago when that came out. But, you know, there's quite a bit of giants that you can do, and this just helps them out by giving them all double strike. That's not too shabby. Good old forest there. We have already gotten this one here. We're looking for some of the other artworks that we haven't yet. First rare is going to be Ooh, it's actually a mythic, a soul immolation. Now, we'd gotten this one last time, did not get this version of it, and I will absolutely take this in a foil. 3 and double red for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast a spell, you blight X, where X can't be greater than the greatest toughness among creatures you control. You put X -1/-1 counters on a creature you control, and soul immolation deals X damage to each opponent and each creature that you control. I think that this one is really good as a one-sided board wipe there, because it says that you can blight X. X can't be greater than the greatest toughness among creatures you control, but you could blight X and put all of those -1/-1 counters on the smallest thing that you have, or the most insignificant thing that you have, and then deal a whole bunch of damage to each of your opponents and all the creatures they control. Honestly, I dig that. I dig it a whole lot there. I think that this is a nice one there. Obviously, not going to be quite as good as something like, what's that? Blasphemous Act, because it's always going to do 13 damage. You can make it really, really cheap there. But the difference is that this is one-sided, whereas something like Blasphemous Act hits your things as well. So, you know, it's a give and take of more damage versus, you know, you can do more with this than Blasphemous Act. It's just harder to get to that point there. You know, most of the time you're not going to have creatures that are greater than 10 power. You could, but, you know, it's not guaranteed. Next one is going to be a Lamentation. I'm trying to remember. I don't think that we had Lamentation in the last video. This is the Elemental Encore Cycles from the 5-color, I think it is, decks for the Lorwyn Eclipsed there, which we will be going over at some point. 5 and a black for a 5/4 Elemental Incarnation with, when it ETBs, you destroy target creature and opponent controls, and you gain 3 life. So, you know, you get rid of something that they have there, you gain a little bit of life, you get a big creature. You know, not too shabby there. Winnowing. Okay, you know, we didn't have this one before. They'll certainly take that. 4 and double white for a sorcery with Convoke. For each player, you choose a creature they control. Then each player sacrifices all other creatures they control that don't share a creature type with the chosen creature. Oh, okay. So it's a mass removal spell that you can convoke out there, you know, can play it for super cheap. It's great in a Kindred deck for yourself because it will protect all of your things that are of the same. And if you choose Changeling, you know, if you choose something that's a Changeling that's all types, then you save yourself. And most of the time, your opponents probably aren't going to be playing a whole lot of Kindred decks there. So this can probably get rid of a whole lot of things. I really dig that there. This is a nice little removal spell, you know, mass removal spell. I'll certainly take that. And we're going to get another one of our full art lands there, which are going to be double-sided. Overgrown Tomb, our black and white, not black and white, black and green forest swamp there, which is going to be pretty terrifying on the backside there. You know, definitely looking at all of that, you know, darkness that comes up in Shadowmoor. Our ascension is rooted in our grief, but we must not express such an unsightly emotion. From grief grows anger, and from anger grows the will to protect what remains. This almost feels like that quote that Yoda tells to Anakin about, like, oh, you know, like fear eventually leads to the dark side. But I am thrilled to be getting more of these because, you know, when eventually I open up some of the regular boxes, then, you know, it's going to be harder to get these. So getting all of these, even if they're not foils, is going to be very, very helpful. I'd like to get all of the different artworks. And, yep, it looks like we are going to have our last one here. We have a little bit of Ashling there. And our final card is going to be, oh, it's another one of our special guest cards. Hey, how do you like that? And a Goblin Sharpshooter at that. That's a pretty decent one. 2 and a red for a 1/1 Goblin that doesn't untap during your untap step. But whenever a creature dies, you untap this. and you can tap this to deal 1 damage to any target. So it's very, very great at getting any like creature tokens that have 1 toughness, because you can tap this to deal 1 damage, and then, oh, a creature died, so you untap it, and then you can tap it again, and you can keep on doing that, getting rid of all of their things with 1 toughness. Man, that's a great pickup. Hey, we got Mistbind Click in the previous one, and now we're getting a Goblin Sharpshooter. Hey, you know, like, that's pretty darn good. I'm glad to get that one. First pack, very good there. Because it's like, this is the only thing that we had that was in the previous pack, but this is the different artwork, and I can definitely use more of these. So, you know, everything was as we wanted it. And who knows, maybe even one of the uncommons that we had there might be worth at least $1. Okay, up next we're going to have a little bit of Keep Out like we had in the previous one. Temporal Cleansing, 3 and a blue for a sorcery with Convoke. The owner of target non-land permanent puts it in their library second from the top or on the bottom. Unexpected Assistance, 3 and double blue. Instant with Convoke, draw 3, and then discard a card. So you can make this pretty cheap if you've got a lot of creatures there to draw 3. Okay. Dawnhand Eulogist. I think that this is an absolutely beautiful card. Now, this was the artwork that was originally released for Lorwyn Eclipsed, and my goodness, what a beautiful card. 3 and a black, 3/3 elf warlock with menace. When this ETBs, mill 3 cards. Then if there's an elf in your graveyard, each opponent loses 2 and you gain 2. I mean, that's pretty decent effect for this. I mean, it might be a little bit difficult to play in like a standard deck there, but you get this out. It's a 3/3 with menace, and then it's self-mill, and you can guarantee yourself that if you have an elf in there prior, then this will automatically deal 2 damage and you gain 2 life. Honestly, I think that this is a pretty decent one to be getting out there for a common. I could probably see this as an uncommon there. You know, it might not be enough for a rare, but I think that this could be upshifted a rarity, so pretty good for that one, I think. Tend the Sprigs, 2 and a green, sorcery, search your library for a basic land card, put on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. If you control 7 or more lands and or tree folk, you get a 3/4 green tree folk creature token with reach. Okay, I think that we had seen this one before. It's very reminiscent of Field of the Dead. I mean, this isn't going to be nearly as good as Field of the Dead because this isn't a land. And it doesn't trigger off lands, it only triggers off itself there, so you can only get this a maximum of 4 times, whereas with Field of the Dead, it's anytime you put in a land. Gnarlbark Elm, 2 and a black, 3/4 Treefolk Warlock that enters with 2 -1/-1 counters on it, and you can pay 2 and a black to remove 2 counters from this creature to have target creature get -2/-2 until end of turn. Okay, a little bit of removal there if you want to. Blossoming Defense, 1 green for an instant. Target creature you control gets +2/+2 and hexproof until end of turn. A little bit of protection there. I mean, we have giant growth at +3/+3 on a single green, so losing 1 power and toughness and giving it hexproof instead, I think that's a pretty good trade-off. Gathering Stone, I know that this one is a pretty good uncommon here for colorless for an artifact with, as it ETBs, you choose a creature type. Spells you cast of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast, so good Kindred. When this artifact ETBs and at the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. If it's a card of the chosen type, you may reveal it and put it in your hand. If you don't put that card in your hand, you may put it in your graveyard. Okay, so, you know, a little bit of filtering there, and, you know, you could potentially be getting an extra draw every turn. Yeah, I can see why that's good. Crib Swap, okay, we've had this one before. This is just new artwork for it. 2 and a white for a Kindred instant shapeshifter. With Changeling, this card is every creature type. You can exile target creature. Its controller creates a 1/1 colorless shapeshifter creature token with Changeling. Yep, you know, it's a nice little exile effect, kind of similar to Generous Gift, except instead of a 3/3 elephant, they get a 1/1 that's every creature type. And we get another one of those planes where, you know, they're on high security there. First rare is going to be a Spry and the Mighty. Okay, we had gotten this one in the previous one, much like Soul Immolation, but not this artwork, so I will certainly take it. 4 and a green for a sorcery. Choose 2 creatures you control. You draw X cards, and the chosen creatures get +X/+X and gain trample until end of turn, where X is the difference between the chosen creature's power. Yep. I think that this is a decent one there of, making them kind of big there. It's a little bit slow because it is a sorcery and it does cost 5. However, I think that it could be a little bit of a finisher if you really want to make it that way, since it does give trample and you get to draw a lot of cards there. So it's either you can use this as a finisher or you can use it to draw a lot of cards. Or if you're playing Commander, you could use it as a, hey, I'm going to remove one person from the field with this because you give them a lot of power. And then you draw cards and you're going to be able to defend yourself against the other remaining 2 players. We're also going to get from our Commander deck portion the Springleaf Parade, X and double green for an enchantment that when it ETBs, you create X 1/1 colorless shapeshifter creature tokens with Changeling. Get a lot of creatures. And creature tokens you control have tap to add 1 mana of any color. Okay, so getting a lot of creatures that you can have to be able to tap them for a lot of mana there. Or even if you play this just for the 2 and you don't create anything, it still gives all of your creature tokens the ability to add extra mana. Now, if you've got a way to give them all haste, like with Anger or something, then you essentially paid only 2 mana for this, and then you get all of the rest of the creatures, which can then tap for mana themselves. I think that this is a pretty good one there, and I would be a bit surprised if this one is not at least a couple of bucks there. So I will certainly take that. We're also going to get a nice little alternate artwork here of Twilight Diviner, 2 and a black for a 3/3 Elf Cleric. When it ETBs, you surveil 2. Whenever 1 or more other creatures you control ETB, if they entered or cast from a graveyard, you create a token that's a copy of one of them. This ability triggers only once each turn. Okay. Now this is great for some sort of revival deck there. Now it only works with creatures, so it doesn't work with artifacts, enchantments, planeswalkers, any other type of permanent there, or lands. It's just only creatures, but I mean, if you've got ways of bringing back creatures from your graveyard like that in any form, to be able to just get an extra token copy of one of them is pretty great. I mean, you get something like Shieldred the Whispered one, where you get one every turn. You could get a copy of one of your best things there. I know that there's a lot of things where you exile something and play it, so they don't necessarily come from your graveyard. So that's a very big distinction that you need to make there with it. We're also going to get we got a Bloom Tender. Now that's a very good one to get. I know that this is kind of like the premier card in the set there, like the big head honcho one that you want to try to look for there. But it's also just a very good card in general. 1 and a green for a 1/1 Elf Druid with a Vivid. You tap it, and for each color among permanents you control, you add 1 mana of that color. So you have all 5 colors, you tap it, and you get 1 of each color into your mana pool there. Honestly, pretty darn good. I will absolutely take that. This is a big pickup that I will certainly be able to use. And it looks like we've got something from the Commander decks there, a little bit of Elemental and Rhino Warrior. And we are on to our final card of the pack. Our big card is going to be a Slumbering Walker. Okay, so unfortunately we did get this one in the last booster box there. Same exact artwork there, so just this one is foil and the other one wasn't. So 3 and double white for a 4/7 Giant Warrior that enters with 2 -1/-1s on it. Beginning of your end step, you can remove a -1. You can remove a counter, it doesn't have to be a -1 counter. From this creature, when you do, you return target creature with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So a little bit of that, not quite Sun Titan effect, but a little bit similar. But hey, if you've got your that giant that gives things double strike, you could potentially be hitting for a little bit more with this one here. But the Bloom Tender is a great pickup along with this Springleaf Parade, and I think that I've got some stuff that I could do with that Twilight Diviner that I'd like to be able to look at. So far, I think that we're still getting some great stuff here. I'm not complaining whatsoever. All right, a little bit of luck for our third pack here. Hopefully, still something really cool. We haven't been let down yet. Safe Right Cavalry, 3 and a green, 4/4 Elf Warrior. Can't be blocked by more than one creature. Pay 5 to have target alpha you control get +2/+2 until end of turn there. Not a great effect. Sun-Dappled Celebrant, 4 and double white for a 5/6 Elf Cleric with Convoke and Vigilance. You know, you could potentially get it out for cheap because of the Convoke, but it's probably not going to see or really do all that much there. Stratosaur, 4 and a blue. We'd seen this one in the previous one. ETBs, one creature gets flying until end of turn. It's got basically uncycling. Shore Lurker, 3 and a white for a 3/3 Merfolk Scout with flying. When it ETBs, you surveil 1. You know, it's fine. Nothing great. Chaos Spewer, 2 and hybrid black red for a 5/4 Goblin Warlock. When it ETBs, you may pay 2. If you don't, you blight 2. Again, I mean, it's a 5/4 for 3, you know, decent, you know, stats are better than its mana base. It doesn't really do anything. You could pay 5 for it there, and then it becomes pretty bad there. But the Blight, if you've got something that you want to take -1/-1 counters off of, then the Blight 2 might be effective. Mud Button Curse Tosser. Mudbutton Curse Tosser. My goodness, that sounds interesting. 1 black for a 2/1 Goblin Warlock. As an additional cost to cast a spell, you behold a goblin or pay 2. This creature can't block, and when this dies, destroy target creature an opponent controls with power 2 or less. Honestly, I think that's pretty decent there. Because, I mean, if your opponent trades with this, then, you know, not only are you trading with it, then you get almost like a 2-for-1 for this, because then they have to get rid of you get to destroy one of their things. Okay, I think that's a pretty decent uncommon. Squawk Roaster, 3 and a red for a star 4 elemental with double strike. It has Vivid. Its power is equal to the number of colors among permanents you control. Okay, so pretty decent in an elemental deck. If you get all 5 colors out there, it becomes a 5/4 with double strike for 4 mana. I mean, even a 3/4 double striker for 4 might be around the baseline that you'd be looking for. You know, something to think about if you want more damage. Boulder Dash instead of Balderdash. Interesting. 1 and a red for a sorcery, deals 2 damage to any target and 1 damage to another target. Okay, so dealing 3 damage among 2 things, sorcery, you know, I guess it really depends on how you want to do things. Like, because it's, again, Lightning Bolt is kind of the big, important red one there, because it's 1 an instant, and 2, it's only 1 red mana for 3 damage. This is 3 damage that you need to split between 2 targets, and it costs an extra, and it's just a sorcery. So I'm not sure if it's going to be important enough to be able to play. Lofty Dreams, 3 double blue. Enchantment Aura Convoke. Enchant creature. When this ETBs, you draw a card. And enchant a creature gets +2/+2 and has flying. Swamp. We've seen this one before with the little auntie's hut there. First rare is going to be Emptiness. Okay, getting another mythic. That's going to be our 4th one in a row in 3 packs. I'll certainly take that. 4 and double hybrid white-black for a 3/5 elemental or incarnation. With when it ETBs, if double white was spent to cast it, return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So if you use the evoke for it and you're able to do that, then you essentially can get something back for 1 extra mana. When this creature ETBs, if double black was spent to cast it, you can put 3 -1/-1 counters on up to 1 target creature. So you can get rid of something there. So, hey, you know, I think it's a pretty decent one. I don't think it's quite as good as the other ones that we've gotten. Deceit is definitely amazing there, and I think Vibrance is still pretty nice as well. Got a little elf there, and we're also going to get one of the other commander cards there from the same one that the Reaper King No More came from. Auntie Ool, the Curse Wretch. 1 and black, green, red for a 4/4 legendary Goblin Warlock with Ward Blight 2. Honestly, I don't think it's I think it's a decently easy ward to get past. I mean, you definitely have to have a creature out on the battlefield to do it. Whenever one or more -1/-1 counters are put on a creature, you draw a card if you control that creature. If you don't, its controller loses a life. Okay, see, another one there where the -1/-1 counters in the Blight is pretty nice because, you know, for them, your opponents to get around this effect of the ward there, they've got to put stuff on and then take a damage. So it's basically ward Blight 2 plus -1 life. And then if you do the Blights, you get to draw a card. I think that's a pretty decent exchange off there. I'll certainly take that, and having another one there is nice if I might want to have something else as a commander for this. Next one is going to be a Collective Inferno, 3 and double red, enchantment with Convoke. As a CTBs, you choose a creature type, double all damage that sources you control of the chosen type would deal. Oh, okay. So potentially, it's a one-sided double damage effect there for kindreds. So goblins, for elementals, for dragons. Okay, yeah. And I think that this could be a little bit of an impactful one there. I'll certainly take that. Oh, well, we're getting a double Soul Immolation. Now we got this art previously, but this is the alternate artwork there. It's another mythic, so now we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 within 3 packs. Okay, we'll certainly take that there. We got 3 mythics in this pack. And we'll certainly take this because I think that there's a lot of places that you could potentially put this into. So, hey, you know, I will certainly take another good mythic that will come from this, and one that has a decent price to it there as well. So, yeah. And let's see here. Yeah, so all we've got left is our final card, since we've got our Elf and our Kithkin. Final card of the set final card of this pack is going to be an Abigail Eloquent First Year. So I think a lot of these might be Strixhaven students that are taking a peek into Lorwyn there, because we have a few. We got a red and a white one, like a hybrid red-white one that was a vampire in the previous one, and I think there's at least one more that's called First Year as well. Abigail Eloquent First Year. Double hybrid white-black for a 1/1 legendary bird bard with flying, first strike, and lifelink. When it ETBs up to one other target creature loses all abilities, you put a flying counter, a first strike counter, and a lifelink counter on that creature. Okay, so it loses all abilities, but if it was something that, let's say, had a ETB trigger or it has a negative effect, you could essentially get a really good creature that you're just like, yeah, no, it has flying, first strike, and lifelink. I mean, that could be pretty darn good there. I mean, something like, even like these elementals here, like with Emptiness, once it ETBs, it's just a 3/5 at that point there. So it's like, oh, I'm going to put a flying, first strike, and lifelink counter on this one here. Seems pretty good there. You probably don't want to do it on something like Auntie Ool or Bloom Tender, you know, those things that actually can continue to use effects there. But, I mean, something that, you know, other ones that don't have anything that really you can use it for sounds pretty darn good. I would certainly take that. Okay, 4th pack. I mean, we've have double the amount of mythics in half the amount of packs, so we're already good on our way. I think that this is, you know, we look for 8, and 10 is really good. So we're more than halfway there already, and we were only a 1/4 of the way through. Dawn's Light Archer, 2 and a green, 4/2, Elf Archer with Flash and Reach. You know, quick little defender there for yourself if you need it. Bramblebark Brute, 2 and a red, 4/5 Giant Warrior, ETBs with 2 -1/-1 counters on it, and you can pay 1 and a red to remove a counter from this, and then target creature can't block this turn. Activate only as a sorcery. Flaring Cinder, 1 and double hybrid blue-red for a 3/2 elemental soldier. When it ETBs and whenever you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. A little bit of rummaging there. Blossom Bind, 1 and a blue. Enchantment Aura, enchant creature. Enchanted, when it ETBs, you tap the enchanted creature, and the enchanted creature can't become untapped and can't have counters put on it. Right. I remember seeing this one. I think this is a great way to remove something there of... Instead of putting a stun counter on it or making it so that they can't untap during their turn, they could still use effects to get them untapped. But with this, it literally says they can't become untapped. You can't have counters put on them there, so you kind of make it doubly pointless for them. So good to get another one of those. Heirloom Auntie, 2 and a black, 4/4 Goblin Warlock. ETBs with 2 -1/-1 counters on it. Whenever another creature you control dies, you surveil one and then remove a -1/-1 from this. Decent. Burden's Stoneback, 1 and a white, 4/4 Giant Warrior. ETBs with 2 -1/-1 counters on it. You can pay 1 and a white to remove a counter from this creature, and target creature gains indestructible until end of turn, activate only as a sorcery. It's too bad that it's only as a sorcery, because just being able to give anything indestructible sounds pretty good for 2 mana. Thirst for Identity. Okay, we have had a lot of these thirst cards here, so it's going to be draw 3, discard 2 unless you discard something specific. 2 and a blue for an instant, draw 3 cards, then discard 2 unless you discard a creature card. Yep, makes a lot of sense there. I will definitely take more of these because I think that these are very good draw spells there. Again, the normal rate is pay 3, draw 2. You know, like that's like the good rate for it. Pay 3, draw 2. This is pay 3, you draw 3, and ultimately you're going to either discard 2 or discard 1, but you're still drawing 3, which is what you want. You're going to get rid of the worst stuff in your hand. Darkness Descends, 2 and double black. Sorcery, put 2 -1/-1s on each creature. So, you know, a little bit of this on everything. You know, this might be good with Auntie Ool, because it doesn't say once a turn. Oh, yeah, this is great with Auntie Ool, because it's whenever 1 or more counters are put on a creature, and this goes on to everything. So you could potentially draw a bunch of cards, and it's not another creature, so you can put it on her as well. And when it gets put on your opponent's stuff, they lose a life as well. Yeah, I think that this one goes very, very well with her. Bogart Cursecrafter, a black and a red for a 2/3 Goblin Warlock with Death Touch. Whenever another goblin you control dies, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. Okay, so good for a little goblin deck there. Maybe a little bit of an aristocrat strategy with it. Swamp there. You know, this is another version that we had gotten from those ones there. It's a little bit closer to the water. Again, I had speculated that it might have been where all of the water from the merfolk might have gone. Who knows? First rare, Temple Garden. Okay, so it's not going to be our special version that we want, but we'll still take a foil Shockland here. That's always a good one there. It's a forest and a plains. Can search it up if it says can search for forest or plains, as long as it doesn't specify basic land. Can enter untapped if you pay 2 life. Always, always, always will take more of these lands. They're always going to be worth something there. Foils are always going to be good. We're also going to get Eventide Shadow from the commander decks. 4 and a black, sorcery. Remove any number of counters from among permanents on the battlefield. You draw cards and lose life equal to the number of counters removed this way. Okay, so good for the Auntie Ool deck there, removing -1/-1 counters, drawing a bunch of cards, though you do lose a bit of life there. You know, bit of a trade-off. But, you know, if you've got ways to potentially gain a bit of life, you know, doesn't hurt quite as much. A little bit of Dream Harvest as well. Kind of expensive there. 5 and double blue-black hybrid for a sorcery with each opponent exile card from the top of their library until they have exiled cards with total mana of 5 or greater this way. Until end of turn, you may cast cards exiled this way without paying their mana cost. Okay, so you pay 7, and Your opponents mill until they hit things with 5 or greater. And if they go over, that's still really good for you because you can pay everything without paying their mana cost. Honestly, pretty darn... I think that this actually is pretty good because, hey, you put it in Commander and you hit 3 people with it there. You're hitting at least 15 mana value among everything there. So you're at the very least doubling what you put into this with things that you get to play for free. If you're able to play more lands, you could play lands from your opponent's exile as well. I think that this is actually pretty decent in Commander. In other formats, no, it's unplayable, but in Commander it is. Up next, we've got Hollow Fountain. Okay, so now we just need the Temple Garden, and we've got everything there. That's perfect there. Our Plains Island Shockland here. It's got a nice little conch on the front, and on the back, it's a little bit more eerie there. We'll absolutely take this one. Yeah, we've gotten 4 of the 5. Like, that's perfect. I like to bask and watch its beauty, a reminder that we can't control the currents, but can know how to swim across them. Many become forever lost to the dark meanders. Lucky for you, I'm a very trustworthy guide. Thank you very much, Sig. We'll absolutely take this. And we're getting a little bit of a card here. Jubilation, that was one of the Commander cards. So no new mythics here, unless this one is. And our final card of the pack is going to be a Bloodtide Binding. Right, one that we haven't gotten yet. 6 and double black for a sorcery with Convoke. Choose a creature type. Return all creature cards of the chosen type from your graveyard to the battlefield. Okay, so it's a mass revival spell that you can convoke to make it cost less and get a bunch of kindred stuff back. I dig it there, elves with black in them, goblins have black in them, demons, I'm sure that you can find other ones there, but elementals, you could get ones that have black in them. Vampires, pretty decent for anything that can get some stuff out there to make this cost, if you make it cost 4 less, then it's only 4 mana to bring back basically every creature in your graveyard. Like, that's pretty darn good. So far, I'm really enjoying everything we've got. Pack number 5, rub for a little bit of luck there. And we're going to start off with a little bit of Spiral into Solitude. 1 and a white, enchantment aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature can't attack or block. And you can pay 1 and a white and blight 1 to sack this artifact, an exiled enchanted creature. Okay, so you can blight one of your things to exile the creature afterwards. So for 4 mana, you essentially get rid of something. Initially, it can't attack or block, but 4 mana, you can just essentially get rid of it. Okay, not too shabby there for a common. Surly Farrier, 1 and a green for a 2/2 Kithkin Citizen. Tap to have target creature you control get +1/+1 in vigilance until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. Enraged Flamecaster, 2 and a red, 3/2 Elemental Soldier with reach. Whenever you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, this deals 2 damage to each opponent. Okay, so I mean, if you did something like, almost like a Keruga, or have Up the Beanstalk, those type of things in it, this would certainly help out with that, because, I mean, casting things for more mana, getting some extra help from it there. Run Away Together. We have seen this one in Eldraine. 1 in a blue, instant, choose 2 target creatures controlled by different players, return them to their owner's hands. Just a couple of lovers that are of just different species. Feisty Spikeling, 1 and a hybrid red-white for a 2/1 shapeshifter changeling. During your turn, this has first strike. Okay. Lissalana Dignitary, 1 and a green for a 2/3 elf advisor. As an additional cost to cast a spell, behold an elf, or pay 2. You can tap this to add double green, activate only if there's an elf card in your graveyard. Again, like with that one that we saw, the like Eulogist there, can probably easily have an elf card in your graveyard and, getting double mana for this, it's pretty good. I'll certainly take that. Iron Shield Elf, 1 and a black, 3/1 Elf Warrior. Discard a card. This creature gains indestructible until end of turn, and you can tap it. And then you tap it. So the only thing about it is that I think iron is not good for fairies, so I probably wouldn't have chosen that as the name of it there. I would have chosen something else, just because just traditionally iron is not good for like fae beings. But I could see this being something good because this is a discard effect that you can use and abuse. You can just continually discard cards with this here for something like a Mayhem deck, for something like Angie Falconwrath with, I can't remember what her effect is off the top of my head there, but, very similarly, it's just, a way to continually discard cards if you want to without having to pay mana. Wander Wine Farewell, 5 and 2 blue for a Kindred Sorcery Merfolk with Convoke. Return 1 or 2 target non-land permanents to their owner's hands. Then if you control a Merfolk, you create a 1/1 white and blue Merfolk creature token for each permanent returned to its owner's hand this way. Okay, so can return your own stuff or whatnot there. It's a little bit expensive to return some stuff and getting a creature there, though. That's my only problem, is it's a bit too... It doesn't do enough for 7 mana. Voracious Tome Skimmer. Triple blue-black hybrid for a 2/3 fairy rogue with flying. Whenever you cast a spell during an opponent's turn, you may pay 1 life. If you do, draw a card. Interesting little Phyrexian Arena type effect there. Plains, we've seen this one there before as well. Very peaceful. First rare is going to be Champions of the Shoal. Haven't had this Champions yet for the Merfolk. 3 and a blue for a 4/6 Merfolk Soldier as an additional cost to cast a spell. Behold a Merfolk and exile it. Whenever this creature enters or becomes tapped, tap up to 1 target creature and put a stun counter on it. When this leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to its owner's hand. I think that's pretty decent there. It's for 4 mana, it's 4/6, and when it ETBs, when it attacks, when you use it to cruise something, you tap something else and put a stun counter on it. I think that's a pretty decent one for it. I would certainly give this one a shot. We also get Puka's Covenant from our commander decks. 2 and a green for an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control with a counter on it dies, you may return another target permanent card with mana value less than or equal to the number of counters on that creature from your graveyard to your hand. Do this only once each turn. So probably decent with the Auntie Ool there, putting a lot of potentially -1/-1 counters with Blight onto something, and then you get to return things to your hand there. Pretty decent. Endblaze Epiphany. X and a red for an instant. Endblaze Epiphany deals X damage to target creature. When that creature dies this turn, exile a number of cards from the top of your library equal to its power. Then choose a card exiled this way until the end of your next turn. You may play that card. Okay, so it's a removal effect that gives you a bit of an impulse draw. Now, if they have a lot of power but little toughness, you can do this for small amount there. And the X only affects the damage that you do. Interesting. I'd have to see how this plays there because I'm not sure if this is good enough to play. Final card of the pack is going to be a Flitterwing Nuisance. 1 blue for a 2/2 fairy rogue with flying. This enters with a -1/-1 counter on it, and you can pay 2 and a blue to remove a counter from this creature whenever a creature... No, this isn't the best one there because it's not foil. Remove a counter from this creature whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker this turn, draw a card. Okay, so it's kind of okay. The big thing is it's a 2/2 for 1, but it's basically a 1/1 for 1 with flying because of the -1/-1 counter. You can pay an additional 3 to draw a card and get it removed, and then it's a 2/2. But I'm not sure that it's... I don't know if that's if that is fast enough there to really do anything. Now, it's great if you want to get some extra draw for it there, but I would assume that you've got some better ways to draw instead of trying to put a singular -1/-1 counter on this, because it's only a 2/2. It can only have 1 on it there. And then using this 3 mana to remove it there. It's almost there, but it's not. And now the actual final one of the pack. Oh, yes. Now, it's not one of the stained glass ones, but it is one of our special Japanese artworks there. We will absolutely take that. I mean, if, you know, of course, it would be fantastic if we could get a stained glass one, but we will absolutely take this, especially since it's, and this is normally a mythic as well, so it's good to get one that we haven't gotten before. Meek Attack. 2 and a red for an enchantment with 1 and a red. You may put a creature card with total power and toughness 5 or less from your hand on the battlefield. That creature gains haste at the beginning of the next end step. Sack that creature. So it's a little bit like Sneak Attack, as it was talking about there. But it's a little bit more limited. Not quite as good as Sneak Attack, but, you know, it's another way of going about doing things there. So I can see why it might not necessarily be the best one there, but it's a new one there. We'll absolutely take a new one, and that brings our total up to 7 now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, so we're 1 more away from having the total amount of mythics that we want, and we're not even halfway through yet. So far, great. I mean, we've gotten a special guest card. We've gotten a Japanese artwork card. We've gotten one of the new elementals. We got Bloom Tender. We got 2 Soul Immolations, which I think are good, and some decent other stuff, and 2 of the 3 Shocklands that we've been looking for. All right, now halfway through. Rubbed for a little bit of luck there, and hopefully we get something grandiose in this one as well. So far, so good. Reluctant Downguard. 2 and a white, 4/4, Kithkin Soldier. ETBs with 2 -1/-1s on it. Whenever another creature you control enters while this creature has a -1/-1 on it, remove a -1/-1 from this creature. Okay. Good old Evolving Wilds. Tap to sack the land, search for a basic land, and put it on the battlefield tapped, and shuffle with some brand new beautiful artwork. Absolutely will take that. Auntie's Sentence. 1 and a black, sorcery. Choose 1, target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land permanent from it. They discard it, or target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. Okay, so this is very similar to Thoughtseize. It costs an extra mana, but you get a bit more of a choice there of choosing. Now, I think that could end up being decent because you can use it as a removal spell, or you can use it as, you know, being able to rip something from their hand. All in all. And then, you know, because you get to see their hand, you get to know everything that's in it. So, honestly, very good there. I think that this is very good for a common. Flamekin Guildweaver. 3 and a red, 4/3, elemental sorcerer with trample. When this ETBs, you create a treasure token. Okay. Lissalana Informant. 1 and a green, 3/1, Elf Scout. When it enters or dies, you surveil 1. Okay, I mean, it's got a lot of power there for that there. Thoughtweft's Charge. 1 and a green, instant. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. If a creature ETB'd under your control this turn, you draw a card. So it's giant growth for an extra mana, but it's basically that extra mana is to draw a card. Honestly, I think that this is a pretty decent combat trick there. You know, giant growth, of course, you know, being able to play it for less is nice, but being able to essentially replace this afterwards for an extra mana, I think kind of makes up for the extra cost. Thoughtweft Imbuer. 3 and a white, 0/5, Kithkin Advisor. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of Kithkin you control. Okay. You know, go wide board and you can hit something really, really hard. Douse of Dawnglow. You got Oko there. 4 and a black, instant. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Then if it isn't your main phase, you blight 2. Okay? And it brings it back to the battlefield there. That's the important thing. So it does get that trigger for our this Twilight Diviner there, which is kind of nice. Wanderbrine Trapper, 1 white for a 2/1 Merfolk Scout, 1 and tap. To tap another untapped creature you control. Tap another untapped creature you control. Tap target creature and opponent controls. So not good enough there because you're paying 1 and then tapping 2 of your things to only tap 1 of their creatures. Not good enough. Mountain, we've seen this one before. Very, very nice looking at all of the Elemental Flamekin village there. We're getting another Abigail Eloquent First Year, so unfortunately getting a duplicate now because it's the same artwork because it's just extended or not extended. You know, not that great there. You know, we'll take it because it could be interesting, but we're looking for other things. Rain Slicked Copse, a forest island that enters tapped and can cycle for 2. So brand new land that they introduced within the commander decks there. So, you know, we'll always take new types of lands there. Tam, here's our other first year that we were talking about. Mindful First Year. 1 and a green-blue hybrid for a 2/2 legendary Gorgon Wizard. Each other creature you control has hexproof from each of its colors. Interesting. Tap, target creature you control becomes all colors until end of turn. Okay, so very good protective spell there. Almost like a Mother of Runes, though colorless spells will still be able to target no matter what. That's the only thing about it, because it can make something every color and then it protects them, and this can protect itself. But I think it's a pretty interesting type of Mother of Runes effect. Ooh, and we're also getting a SIG, and it's going to be our special artwork SIG. I'll absolutely take that. SIG Wanderwind Wisdom. SIG Wanderwind Wisdom. 1 in a blue for a 2/2 legendary Merfolk Wizard. SIG can't be blocked. Get a little bit of unblockable guy there. That's nice. Whenever this ETBs or transforms into SIG Wanderwind Wisdom, target creature gains whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player planeswalk, draw a card until end of turn. Kind of nice. I mean, if you transform this one, if you transform it back into this and it's unblockable, you can just swing in for 2 damage and draw a card. Beginning of your first main phase, you may pay white if you do transform SIG into SIG Wanderbrine Shield. Wanderwine Wisdom, Wanderbrine Shield, which is going to be a 2/2 legendary Merfolk Rogue with that still can't be blocked. Whenever this creature transforms into SIG Wanderbrine Shield, target creature you control gains protection from each color until end of turn. Until your next turn. Okay, so through all of your opponent's turns. And at the beginning of your first main phase, you can pay blue to transform SIG. Yeah, honestly, I think that's a pretty nifty one, going between protecting something for a full turn and being able to draw an extra card. I dig it. I'll certainly take it there. And I did see that this is a double-faced card, so it's good that we have our little Brigid here. And the card is going to be... Okay, we're getting the same Lava Leaper deal here, where we're getting the alternate art one, but it's just, you know, foil and non-foil. I mean, I think that it's pretty decent there of being able to, you know, use this between blue and white decks as well as Merfolk decks. You know, I'll take another one just to be able to do it. And now we're officially halfway through. Get a little bit of rub for luck on that one there. And open this on up. Okay. A little bit of Scarblade's Malice. I think we'd seen this one before. A black for an instant. Target creature gains Death Touch and Lifelink until end turn. When it dies, you create a 2/2 black and green elf creature token. Okay, yeah, you know, you can put it on something small that's yours that gets lifelink, kills the thing that it trades with, and then you get a 2/2 elf. Pretty decent, I think, for a single black. Eldoranti, 2 and a red for a 2/2 Goblin Warlock. When it ETBs, you create a 1/1 black and red Goblin creature token. Okay. Wanderwine Distractor. I think we might have seen this one. 3 and a blue, 4/3 Merfolk Wizard. When this becomes tapped, target creature an opponent controls gets -3/-0 until end of turn. Kind of nice for a crew, like a deck to cruise things with, but you can also attack in because it gives -3/-0. Anything that is less than 6 power doesn't, just doesn't kill this. Great Forest Druid. Seen this one before. 1 and a green, 0/4 Tree Folk Druid. You can tap to add 1 mana of any color. Little mana dork there for Tree Folks instead of elves. Flame Chain Mauler, 1 and a red, 2/2 Elemental Warrior, 1 and a red. This creature gets +1/+0 and gains menace until end of turn. Okay. Rhymekin Recluse, 2 and a blue, 3/2 Elemental Wizard. When this ETBs, return up to 1 other target creature to its owner's hand. Can do it for yourself for ETB triggers, or can do it on your opponent's stuff to disrupt them a little bit. Glamour Gifter, 1 and a blue, 1/2 Fairy Wizard, flash and flying. When it ETBs, choose up to 1 other target creature. Until end of turn, that creature has base power and toughness 4/4 and gains all creature types. Okay, so make something a little bit bigger. Can't do it for yourself, but you could potentially have, something on your field just being a nice little blocker when they don't really expect it. Deep Channel Duelist, 1 and a blue for a 2/2 Merfolk Soldier. Beginning of your end step, untap target Merfolk you control. Other Merfolk you control get +1/+1. Okay, so, you can attack in with some of your stuff, and you've got 1 blocker, essentially giving something vigilance afterwards. Puka's Eye, 2 mana for an artifact. When the CTBs, you draw a card, then you choose a color. This artifact becomes the chosen color. Pay 3 and tap this, draw a card. Activate only if there are 5 colors among permanents you control. Okay, so you can fix what sort of colors you have, but trying to get as many different colors as you can with this to draw a card. But it's 3 mana to do it, so probably not worth it. Same Flamekin Village there for the mountain. And first rare is going to be another champion that we haven't had, Champion of the Path. 3 and a red for a 7/3, pretty big power for 4. For an elemental sorcerer, as an additional cost to cast a spell, behold an elemental and exile it. Whenever another elemental you control ETBs, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. That's pretty nasty. Like, some of these champions are pretty darn good. When this leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to its owner's hand. Yeah, I really dig this. It's 7 power it's 7/3 on a 4 mana creature that can deal a whole lot of damage for elementals that come into play. I mean, need I remind you, all of these are elementals. So it's like you do that and you can be dealing a whole bunch of damage with that there. I like this card. And we're going to get the one of the commanders there. So now we've got 3 of the probably 4 commanders of the commander decks there. Massive Mysteries. 1 of each color for a 5/5 legendary elemental. First strike, vigilance, and trample. Beginning of combat on your turn, another target elemental you control gains myriad until end of turn. That could be pretty impactful, especially if you've got an elemental that has an ETB trigger and potentially have ways of duplicating ETB triggers. That could be horrifying there with how good that could be. I dig that. I really dig that. We're also going to get a Grub's Command. 3 and a black-red for a Kindred Sorcery Goblin. Choose 2. Create a token that's a copy of target goblin you control. That could be pretty good. Creatures target player control get +1/+1 and gain haste until end of turn. Good for like a Krenko deck if you're pumping out a whole lot of goblins. Destroy target artifact or creature. A little bit of removal is nice. Target player mills 5 cards, then puts each goblin card milled this way into their hand. So a little bit of self-mill to get some goblins. Honestly, not too bad there. I'll certainly take it. We did get this one last time, but I think it's pretty good. Selfless Safe Right. 3 and double red. Wow. 3 and double green for a 4/2 Elf Warrior with Flash and Convoke. When this ETBs, choose a creature type. Other permanents you control of the type gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. It's like I had said, it's a bit of a heroic intervention on a creature there that has Convoke. I think that's pretty good. And our big card of the pack is going to be a Sunderflock. We got a little Sapperling and Scarecrow. Ooh, a Scarecrow token. That's nice. I like that. That's a nifty little one there. Okay, so Sunderflock. 7 and double blue for a 5/5 elemental. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest mana value among elementals you control. Okay, make this one a lot cheaper there. Has flying. When this ETBs, if you cast it, return all non-elemental creatures to their owner's hands. Now that is nasty. One-sided, basically, upheaval. I think upheaval also returns lands, maybe, so maybe not quite that, but that's pretty nasty. I guess a better way of doing it, it's a overloaded cyclonic rift on a creature, essentially. Though no, because it's only creatures. This only works on creatures there, so I don't know what the best way of it is. But it's good. It's good. And facing off against, having it in an elemental deck is going to be super impactful. Okay. Coming up here, pack number 8. Rubbed for good luck there. We've gotten some good stuff. Still looking for more. I mean, Massive Mysteries does count as technically our 8th mythic. Yeah, 5, 6, 7, 8. These ones aren't the best ones there, but, we'll still take them anyway. Starting off with Wild Unraveling, double blue, instant, as an additional cost to cast it, blight 2 or pay 1, counter target spell. Okay, it's a way to do another counter spell. Gold Metal Nomad. We'd seen this one before. Gravelgill Scoundrel, 1 and a blue, 1/3 Merfolk Rogue. With Vigilance, whenever this attacks, you may tap another untapped creature you control. If you do, this can't be blocked. Okay. Kolrath Mystic, 2 and a blue, 2/4 Elemental Wizard. Whenever you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, this gets +2/+0 and Vigilance until end of turn. So, kind of same thing that we talked about with that Karuga. Crossroads Watcher, 2 and a green, 3/3 Kithkin Ranger with Trample. Whenever another creature you control ETBs, this gets +1/+0 until end of turn. So if you can put a whole lot of stuff out there, then you can make this really big. Sting Slinger, 2 and a red for a 3/3 Goblin Warrior. 1 and a red, tap to blight. And you blight 1. This creature deals 2 damage to each opponent. Okay. Each turn, deal an extra 2. It's not the worst thing ever. Morcant's Loyalist. 1 and a black-green for a 3/2 Elf Warrior. Other elves you control get +1/+1. A little bit of Lord effect. When this creature dies, return another target elf from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, a little bit of elf recursion as well. Not too bad. Deep Channel Duelist, we just saw this one before. This is just its regular artwork. Good to get all the artworks we can. Klotchen Festival, 2 and a white for a Kindred Enchantment Kithkin. When the CTBs, create 2 1/1 green and white Kithkin creature tokens, and you can pay 4 and a white to create another 1/1 green and white Kithkin creature token. So, I think good in sealed or limited there, where if you've got a lot of mana and you can't really do anything, you don't really have any cards in your hand, you can pay 5 to create another creature. And we're getting another plains there. I think we still have some lands that we're missing. I think. We've gotten both whites, we've gotten both blues, we've gotten both reds, but gotten both greens. No, we've gotten everything. We've gotten all of the different lands. Okay. First rare is going to be Mutable Explorer. I think that this one is pretty good. 2 and a green for a 1/1 Shapeshifter with Changeling. When this ETBs, you create a tapped Mutavault token. It's a land with tap to add 1 colorless, and pay 1, this token becomes a 2/2 creature with all creature types until end of turn. It's still a land. Yeah, you create a new land that's a token. And if you've got ways of duplicating tokens, populating tokens, or, duplicating them on entry, you can get a lot of them there, a lot of extra mana ramp on that, and they're all Mutavaults. Yeah, I like this one. I think that this one's pretty darn good. Belonging, we got this one in the last one as well. One of those elementals, 5 and a white, 6/6. Elemental Incarnation. When it ETBs, you create 3 1/1 colorless shapeshifter creature tokens with Changeling, and it's got Encore. Next one is going to be Raiding Schemes. We got this one, the last one as well. So I'll duplicate 3 and a red and green for an enchantment. Each non-creature spell you cast has Conspire. I do really like this one because I like duplicating all of my spells, so being able to tap a couple of things with the same colors as it to essentially create a copy of it for free. Yeah, I like that. That's really nice. Another Mirror Mind Crown. So it looks like we are starting to get a few duplicates that we had in the previous one. 4 mana for artifact equipment. As long as this is attached to a creature, the first time you would create 1 or more tokens each turn, you may instead create that many tokens that are copies of the equipped creature. So, you know, you've got a really nice creature there. I'm just thinking like, oh man, you know, if you've got like Agent of Treachery or something, you put this on it and you create tokens, and then it's just like, oh man, I just created like 3 more Agent of Treacheries. I guess I'll steal more of your stuff. Oh, that's too bad. And then you get to draw cards because you stole more of their stuff. But because you've got multiple Agent of Treacheries, you draw those cards for each one. And big card, Morning Tide's late. So we did hit our 8. Yeah, we hit our 8. That's 5, 6, 7, 8. Nope, this is our 9th one there. Now, unfortunately, we did have this one already from previous packs. This one is the foil version, though, but it's not a different one, but it is pretty good. 3 and a white, sorcery, exile any number of target creatures at the beginning of the next end step. Return those creatures to the battlefield tapped under their owner's control. Until your next turn, prevent all damage that would be dealt to you. So you can protect all of your stuff there, or what you can end up doing is you can exile all of your opponent's creatures there. You can swing in really big. They get returned to the battlefield tapped, and then, you know, they can't attack you, but it's like, oh, the next person after you, they'll untap all of their stuff, but hey, the next 2 players, they're all tapped out. Like, all of their creatures are tapped. They can swing in if they want to. So I think it's I can think that it's a pretty surprisingly good card for Commander there. And I'm glad to be able to get another one since it's just white. You can use in a whole bunch of different stuff. Rub for luck there for our next pack. Again, get something glorious. Starting off with a Wary Farmer. 1 and double green-white hybrid, 3/3 Kithkin Citizen. Beginning of your end step, if another creature ETB'd, you can surveil 1. Feed the Flames, 3 and a red. Instant, deals 5 damage to target creature. It would be exiled instead of destroyed. Silvergale Peddler, 2 and a blue, 2/3 Merfolk Citizen. When it becomes tapped, draw a card, then discard a card. Okay, Cinder Strike, 1 red, sorceries, additional cost. You may blight 1. Deals 2 damage to target creature, deals 4 instead if you paid the blight. Just wish that it was on an instant. Wildvine Pummeler, 6 and a green, 6/5 Giant Berserker. Vivid, costs 1 less for each color you have. Reach and Trample. Moon Vigil Adherence, 2 and double green for a 0/0 Elf Druid with Trample. Gets +1/+1 for each creature you control and each creature card in your graveyard. So can be pretty big there. I mean, elves, you're going to have a lot of them. Shine Striker, 4 double blue, 3/3, elemental with flyer. When it ETBs, you draw a card for each color among permanents you control there. So, you know, pay 6 mana, you get a 3/3 body, potentially drawing 3, maybe more cards. Pretty decent. Perfect Intimidation, 3 and a black. Sorcery, choose 1 or both. Target opponent exiles 2 cards from their hand. Remove all counters from target creature. Yeah, decent on that one there. Unwelcome Sprite, 1 and a blue, 2/1 Fairy Rogue. Flying, whenever you cast a spell during your opponent's turn, you can surveil 2. Okay. Dark Little Forest there. And our first rare is going to be Dawnhand Dissident. I'm trying to remember if we had gotten this one before. Can't quite remember. 1 black for a 1/2 Elf Warlock. Tap and blight 1 to surveil 1. Tap to blight 2 and exile target card from a graveyard. During your turn, you may cast creature spells from among cards you own exiled with this creature by removing 3 counters from among creatures you control in addition to paying their other costs. Yes, we did get this one before, and I think that this one is pretty decent of being able to, you know, being able to do this. And it goes very good with that other one that we had gotten, this Twilight Diviner, because you are playing something from your graveyard there. You're playing something from your graveyard, you're removing counters from your own things, but you do have to exile. No, it's not from the graveyard, it's exiling. Nah, it doesn't work. That's unfortunate. Oh well. I still think that this one is pretty good, and I'm definitely going to be trying to use it there. It's only 1 black mana, and it's doing all these effects. You could also exile this with Agassiz Soul Cauldron and give all of your stuff these abilities there, and being like, yes, I'm going to tap 1 creature to blight 1 to surveil, tap 2 to exile something from my graveyard. Now I've got 3, and I can remove three counters of doing of things to be able to play it from the graveyard. I just think that this is a decent card. We got this one in the previous pack as well. Not previous pack, previous box there from the Commander deck. Sinister Gnarlbark, 2 and a black, 0/4, Treefolk Warlock. Beginning of your end step, you draw a card and blight 1. So an alternative to the Phyrexian Arena. It's just at the end of turn, and you get to do the blight 1. It's good with this, being able to remove counters there. Champions of the Perfect, we had gotten this one previously as well, I think. 3 and a green, 6/6 Elf Warrior. There's an additional cost to cast a spell. Behold an elf and exile it. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you draw a card. Yeah, anytime you cast an elf, you draw a card. Pretty nice. Leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to its owner's hand. We'll certainly take that. And a new legendary creature here. Lorwyn, Imperfect Naturalist, 2 black-green hybrid for a 1/3 legendary elf druid. When it ETBs, you mill 4 cards. Then you may put a creature or land from among the milled cards on top of your library. So you get to choose something that you want to put. You essentially get to filter through 4 of your things and put the thing that you want on the top. 2 and triple blue-black hybrid. No, triple black-green hybrid to tap and discard a land card to create a 1/1 black and green worm creature token for each land card in your graveyard. Okay, well, this is going in the deck that is discarding all the lands there. I mean, it just makes sense there, creating a bunch of creatures for all the lands in your graveyard. I'll certainly take that. And we're going to get a foil Grubs command. So unfortunately, same artwork that we had. It's foil. We'll take it. It's decent, but it's not amazing there. But, it's, we'll bling things out a little bit there. On to the final 3 packs. Rub for a little bit of luck there. Hopefully we get something new, something interesting, something spectacular. Stalactite. Dagger there, this the equipped creature essentially becomes a changeling, which I really like there for, the changeling type of decks. So I'll certainly take more of those. Reckless Ransacking. This Noggle, I think we had gotten this before. It looks very, very interesting. Stoic Grove Guide. 4 and hybrid black-green for a 5/4 elf druid, 1 and a hybrid black-green. Exile this card from your graveyard to create a 2/2 black and green elf creature token. Interesting. So for the things where it matters if you have an elf in your graveyard, you could do those first and then pay the 2 to then get an elf afterwards with this. Okay, if you just mill this one. Glamourmite, 2 and a blue, 2/2, Elf Rogue, Flash Flying, ETBs, choose 1, tap target creature, untap target creature. This was in that, what's that one called? I can't quite remember, but Splinter Twin. Yeah, this is one of those ones that will go infinite with Splinter Twin there. So, yay, another one for that. Midnight Tilling, I think we had gotten this one. 1 and a green, instant, mill 4, can return a permanent from among them to your hand. Rhyme Chill, 6 and a blue for an instant. Vivid, costs 1 less to cast for each color among permanents you control. Tap up the 2 target creatures, put a stun counter on each of them, draw a card. Soulbright Seeker, 1 red for a 2/1 elemental sorcerer. As an additional cost to cast a spell, behold an elemental, or pay 2. Pay 1 red. Target creature you control gains trample until end of turn. If this is the 3rd time the spell has resolved this turn, add 4 red mana. Okay, so you have at least 3 red mana. You give things trample. You can do it on the same thing, and then you essentially get 1 mana back. Okay? That's great. And the thing is, you can continuously do that on other players' turns. So, you could be like, oh, like, I'm going to do that 3 times, get an extra mana, and then potentially play something else. Bogart Curse Crafter. I think we had gotten this one before. Just another artwork. Just when another goblin dies, you deal 1 damage to each opponent. So, more artworks. That's good. Noggle Robber. 1 and double green-red hybrid for a 3/3 Noggle Rogue. When this ETBs or dies, create a treasure token. Okay. Little islands in Shadowmoor there. First rare. Our 10th mythic here. A Johnny Outland Chaperone. 1 and double white for a legendary planeswalker, a Johnny. Starting off with 3 loyalty, you can +1 to create a 1/1 green and white Kithkin creature token, so it protects itself. -2 deals 4 damage to target tapped creature, and you can do that on the turn it comes out as well, so a bit of removal there. -8, look at the top X cards of your library. X is your life total. You may play any number of non-land permanent cards with mana value 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield and then shuffle. So, I mean, if you can get lucky with that in Commander, looking at a lot of stuff, you get to play a lot of stuff for free. Seems pretty nice. Probably not going to get there. It's all right. Not the most amazing, but we'll certainly take it since it is going to be a new card for us, and it is a mythic, so that reaches up to our 10 total that we're looking for as our kind of like extra number. We're also going to get a little bit of Grave Venerations from the Commander decks. 3 and a black enchantment. When this ETBs, you become the Monarch. So it introduces Monarch. That's nice. Beginning of your end step, if you're the Monarch, return up to 1 target creature from your graveyard to your hand. And whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. And that doesn't have to happen when you have the Monarch. So this is actually pretty good with an aristocrat-style deck there of just, oh no, my creature died. I guess I'll drain everybody. I guess it's not a true drain since you only gain 1 life, but it's still like dealing 1 damage. Introduces the Monarch, and you play this, you become the Monarch. At the end of your turn, you draw the extra card, and you get to return a creature from your graveyard to your hand. I think that it's pretty decent there. Next up, we got another Mutable Explorer. Just instead of the regular artwork, it's our special artwork from our showcase artwork from Lorwyn. I'll certainly take that. Get more Mutavault tokens. I'm sure that I can use that in other places. Thank you very much. I will absolutely take that. And we're getting our 11th mythic here, Glenalendra's Answerer. 2 and double blue for an instant. With this spell can't be countered. Counter all spells your opponents control and all abilities your opponents control. Create a 1/1 blue and black fairy creature token with flying for each spell and ability countered this way. Very nice. So it's a super counter spell that you then get a whole bunch of, that you can get some more, fairies from. And it's actually decent there if, you have a couple of opponents that are countering a bunch of stuff, and they're just like, if they have an ability that triggers something, or, if they have an ability that triggers and you resolve this from them stacking up a whole lot of trigger, like if they are like, oh, this ability happens, but trigger, I'm going to do this, but in response, I'm going to trigger and do that. And if they set up like a chain of things, then you can be like, I just counter them all and I get a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, I think that's a pretty nifty counter spell there of potentially getting a whole lot of stuff if, you are fighting opponents that like to make big, long chains of activated abilities like that. And our final one of the pack is going to be a Dolmen Gate. Yeah, two special guests in the same box. Absolutely, yes, please. Dolmen Gate is good. 2 mana for an artifact. Present all combat damage that would be dealt to attacking creatures you control. So you can go really ham and hard into just being like a full combat deck there, and this being one of your few things, and you're just like, yeah, you know, my attacking creatures don't take damage. We did get a copy of this in the Karlach Secret Lair, so getting another one is really, really nice, and that brings us up to what, 12? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, 12. 2 of them are from the Commander decks there and aren't like the greatest, but 2 secret guests, great counterspell. We got a Planeswalker, we've got a Japanese foil. Morningtide's Light, I think, is great. One of the elementals, Bloom Tender, 2 Soul Immolations. We're doing really good in this box here. I'm really happy with what we've gotten. Rubbing for luck on the penultimate pack. We had asked for something cool, for something new, for something spectacular. Well, this is new, cool, spectacular. This is cool, new, and spectacular. This is cool and new. This is cool and new. And this is cool and spectacular. So it's like we got a whole bunch of good stuff in that pack. Eridu, that is who I really, really want. Appeal to Eridu. We had gotten this one before, gave a couple of creatures a little bit of power and toughness until end of turn. Curious Wayfinder, ETBs, you can search library for a basic land and put in your hand. So nice little, ETB trigger of getting some extra mana ramp. Mischievous Sneakling there just has a little bit of flash. Foraging Wickermaw, 2 for a 1/3 Scarecrow artifact creature, ETB, Surveil 1. Pay 1 mana, add 1 mana of any color. This creature becomes the color until end of turn, actively only once each turn. So you can mana fix a little bit there. You can make this a certain color if you want to do it with Vivid. You know, it works out with that. Aqueduct's Defenses. Flash gives them hexproof, a little bit of power and toughness as it's equipped. Eclipsed Flamekin. I think we'd seen this one before. When ETBs look at the top 4, you can reveal an elemental island. Yep. That's whole cycle there of the different types of kindred cards there. Meanderer's Guide, 2 and a white, 3/2 Merfolk Scout. When it attacks, you may tap another untapped Merfolk you control. When you do, return target creature with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Now that one does work with our Twilight Diviner there. If they entered or were cast from the graveyard, you create a token copy of them there. Yeah, that works for them there. We will certainly take this here. That's a nifty one. Chomping Changeling, 2 and a green, 1/2 Shapeshifter Changeling. When it ETBs, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment. Okay, that's good. Doing a little bit removal on a creature there. Everstrike's Gift, 1 white for an enchantment aura, enchant creature. They have +1/+0 and flying. 1 and a white, Blight 2, return this from your graveyard to your hand, activate only as a sorcery. Okay, I mean, if you can use Blight to do stuff, I mean, being able to get this back repeatedly and putting the -1/-1 counters on stuff can be pretty decent. The island during the day with all of those merfolk. First rare is going to be Goliath Daydreamer. 2 and double red for a 4/4 giant wizard. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery from your hand, exile that card with a dream counter on it instead of putting it into your graveyard as it resolved. Whenever this attacks, you may cast a spell from among cards you own and exile with dream counters on them without paying their mana. That is cool. Yeah. I like that one. This kind of makes me reminisce a little bit about the Cypher effect there, where it was, you can, after casting this card, you can, exile it onto and almost equipped it onto a creature you control, like a enchantment aura, and if they deal combat damage to a player, you get to activate their thing again. But it's just oh, you know, like you activate an instant or sorcery from your hand and it, you know, you exile it with the dream counter. Now, the big thing on it is that it doesn't exile with this. So if you've got multiple versions of this, then the thing is it's still exiled with a dream counter. So if this gets removed and you bring it back, you can still use those ones there. This is, I think that's pretty good for the giants there. I like this card. I like this card a lot. Elemental Spectacular. Or no, Elemental Spectacle. There's a whole lot of things going on in this. Oh my goodness. 5 and a green for sorcery with Vivid. Create a number of 5/5 red and green elemental creature tokens equal to the number of colors among permanents you control. Then you gain life equal to the number of creatures you control. Okay, so that's where these elementals come from there, these Omnaths, because they're 5/5s. You have all 5 colors because you've got something like Massive Mysteries out on the battlefield, and you're just like, oh yeah, you know, like I've got all 5 of my colors, so I'm going to create 5 5/5s, and then I'm going to gain, you know, some life from among them there. Yeah, okay, I get it. Nifty little elemental one there. Oh, here's another one of our first years. Sonar Innovative First Year. 2 and double blue-red hybrid for a 2/4 legendary goblin sorcerer. With Vivid, at the beginning of your first main phase, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal X non-land cards, where X is the number of colors among permanents you control. At least going to be 2 because Sonar is 2. For each of those colors, you may exile a card of that color from among the revealed cards, then shuffle. You can cast the exiled cards this turn. Okay, so, you know, it's like super impulse draw, almost. Okay, yeah. It's until you reveal X, where X is for each of those. You reveal cards from the top, and then you shuffle your deck afterwards. Okay, yeah, I dig this. I think that I could find a way to use that. I'll certainly take that. Hexing Squelcher. What a name. What a name. 1 and a red for a 2/2 goblin sorcerer. Can't be countered. Okay. Ward, pay 2 life. Nice. Spells you control can't be countered. That's even nicer. Other creatures you control have ward, pay 2 life. This is fantastic. This is a great card. In like any deck that can pay red, all of your spells can't be countered. All of your stuff, all of your creatures have ward, pay 2 life. Yeah, this is a very good card. Like if this isn't, you know, if this isn't at least $5 or something, I'd be a bit surprised because this is pretty darn good for what it is. Because in and of itself, it can't be countered, and to get rid of it, they still have to pay 2 life. And they have to get rid of this first, almost. Yeah. I absolutely adore this one. This is great. And our final card is going to be another Goliath Daydreamer, but this time it's going to be the alternate artwork, and that's a very scary copy there. But hey, I thought that this one was a very good card, and this is the other artwork, so I mean, oops, all of my stuff is going everywhere. So I mean, yeah, absolutely, please. I will certainly take this second copy of it there, and you know, I just think it's good. Hey, we got some really good stuff, I think, there. That one stay still. And final pack. Hopefully, final pack magic will come around and we get something awesome with this one as well. Starting off with a little bit of Furdock Core. We saw this one before where it's a changeling artifact that is a mana rock. Bone Club Berserker, 3 and a red, 2/4, Goblin Berserker, gets +2/+0 for each other goblin you control. In a Krenko deck, this is big. Bogart Prankster, we saw this one before. Another target attacking goblin. Whenever you attack, target attacking goblin you control gets +1/+0. Yeah, it's not great. Mist Metal Council, we saw this one as well. 1 less for each Kithkin you control. ETBs, you draw a card. Dream Caesar, when it's ETBs, you may blight 1 if you do. Each opponent discards a card. I think that this one's pretty decent as well. Morcant's Loyalist, we just got this one, but this is the alternate artwork. We'll absolutely take these other artworks. Gut Splitter Gang, 3 and a black, 6/6 Goblin Berserker. At the beginning of your first main phase. You may blight 2. If you don't, you lose 3 life. I mean, this seems like it goes pretty well with that one that lets you remove the -1/-1s to be able to bring stuff back that you've exiled. So, you know, I think that this in of itself could really help that one out. So I don't mind that. I mean, it could also probably go well with the Auntie deck. Virulent Emissary, 1 green for a 1/1 elf assassin with Death Touch. Whenever another creature you control ATBs, you gain a life. A little bit of a Soul Sister, but, you know, has a little bit of Death Touch on it. Lasting Tarfire, 1 and a red enchantment, beginning of each end step. If you put a counter on a creature this turn, this enchantment deals 2 damage to each opponent. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways to put counters on stuff there, so I think that this is also a kind of a surprise sleeper of an uncommon. Yeah. Especially if, you know, you've got something like the Ward Blight 2, or just have something where it's just going to blight something each turn. I think that this one is surprisingly good. And the Flamekin Mountains during the day there, you know, hopefully they're happy. Going on to our first rare of the pack. Ashling Rekindled. Okay, I was hoping that we were... Ashling was one of the ones that I was hoping we'd get, like Ashling and Eridu there, because Ashling is red and blue. 1 and a red, 1/3, legendary elemental sorcerer. When this creature ETBs or transforms into Ashling Rekindled, you may discard a card, and if you do, draw a card. Beginning of your first main phase, you may pay a blue. If you do, transform Ashling into Ashling Rhymebound, a 1/3 legendary elemental wizard, with when this creature transforms into Ashling Rhymebound, and at the beginning of the first main phase, add 2 mana of any one color. Spend this mana only to cast spells with mana value 4 or greater. So, again, very good. I mean, it would be good in Karuga, but this is only 2 mana to play. But, you know, you essentially can get 2 additional mana to be able to pay up for something that's 4 or greater. I will certainly take that. And next one is going to be a Dread Tiller, new one from the Commander decks. 1, a black and a green for a 2/4 artifact Scarecrow. When this ETBs, you put a -1/-1 on target creature. Whenever a creature with -1/-1 on it dies, you may put a land from your hand or graveyard on the battlefield tapped. That's pretty nice. I'll certainly take that. You know, getting to put things from your graveyard back out there. Whenever a creature with a -1/-1 on it dies. Yeah, I like that. Spry and Mighty. Okay, so we did get this art of it previously there, but I think there's a couple of ways to make it good. Maybe having an extra copy isn't super terrible there. So we'll take it for the moment, but, you know, wishing that we got some other stuff. Next up is going to be another Goliath Daydreamer. I thought that this one was pretty decent there. You know, this is just a non-foil copy of the one that we had gotten. We've gotten one last card in the pack there. So last one there, you know, decent to get this one since I think that it can be good. We're going to get another Tam Mindful First Year. So unfortunately, not the greatest of the final ones. This is the only new card among the things that we had. Oh, no, Ashling was new there. But all 3 of these ones that we had before, though I do think that this is decent because it's like a Mother of Runes effect there. So I'll certainly take that. But yeah, you know, overall, I think we did pretty good. Like we had talked about before, 2 special guests, and we got some pretty decent cards for the Mythic slot there. The Answer, you know, the Japanese artwork there, another Morningtide Light, Emptiness, Bloom Tender, both of the Soul Immolations. Johnny is probably the weakest of them among them, you know, with the exception of these. We unfortunately did not get the Temple Garden, which we did get the normal version in here. But we did get a whole lot of cool and interesting ones here, like Sunderflock, Mutable Explorer, this Champion of the Path, the 2 Sigs, the Tams, the Abigails. This Bloodline Bloodline Bidding there. This Twilight Diviner, Winnowing was good. Another copy of this Dawnhand Dissonant. Let's see here. This Rating Schemes I thought was good. Sonar, Hexing Squelcher, the Goliath Daydreamer. We got 3 copies of those. Overall, I think we made out pretty darn good. And I'm really happy with Lorwyn. I'm looking forward to opening up more of Lorwyn as well as Bloomborough, which kind of feels a lot the same to me. So I'm really glad that I got to open this up with you all. So thank you for joining me on this one here. I look forward to you joining me on one in the future. Until then, have a good evening, afternoon, or night. I'll see you on that next one. Take care.